Boat Show is on the road today, coming to you from Florence, Alabama. I'm Matt Reisinger.
And I'm Will King.
And Will, if you didn't know, is a former firefighter. He spent a decade in the fire service. He also has a paramedic license. Am I saying that right?
So used to. I actually let it go, but for 10 years I was also a medic. So
got it.
Yeah,
so Will is building this house, and right here we've got 5 tips for you from a firefighter on how to build your next house. Let's get going.
All right, Matt, so tip number 1 is down here in the basement. So let's talk about safe rooms. You know, this is a big deal to me because I can't tell you the amount of like tornadoes, big events we had to go to in the fire service. And people didn't have anywhere safe to go.
Yeah.
And depending on if they were in the heart of a tornado or even on the outskirts, that could be, you know, a disaster for your family. Especially where we live. I don't know about out in Austin, how many tornadoes you guys get, but
they happen.
Yeah. So they double. So it's also security for valuables. It's also a panic room in the event that you needed it. But we're standing underneath the front porch. So
so concrete ceiling. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So we decided a few years ago, you know, we're always building basements here on the lake. That's very common, and everybody wants a concrete front porch. So if you're having poured concrete walls on the foundation, like the one in front of me here, you know, it's like, how do you build that? And so one thing that we had done for a while was start using CMU block and trying to tie those together, which is terrible, by the way.
Yeah.
And then you're filling this huge hole in with gravel, and then you're pouring a slab, and then the slab cracks, and then everybody's aggravated. So we decided, well, heck, let's just step the basement walls out, make a doorway, we'll waterproof the top, and then we have, you know, it's a full vault. I mean, not only do you have a basement, but now we're inside of a full concrete enclosure. So that's what we're standing in here. And of course you can tell by the door, it's a little intense. You know,
this is a heavy duty door, steel door.
3 deadbolts.
With a bunch of just manual deadbolts so you can lock it when you get inside.
That's right.
You could have put a vault door in here too if you wanted to. This could be a gun room or some other valuables closet if you wanted to, but with 4 deadbolts and a key, it's going to be pretty safe anyway.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, I think like Liberty and some of the gun safe manufacturers make some huge vault doors that are nice. But this is a you know, $1,200 door. It's not a crazy expense, which is pretty cool.
The other thing I want to mention here too is I've noticed your crawl space on most of the house, but you excavated for this space. I think a lot of people that have crawl spaces could spend a little bit extra money, excavate this kind of mini basement spot like you've done here. I've seen our friend Jake do that in Missouri. It gives you a space to do mechanicals, to put a safe room in like this. So this is really, really smart.
We'll also do them like garages above grade. You know, you can do them that way. We try to, especially after all the tornadoes we've had here, it's a very big request. And one quick thing about this, notice the in-swing door.
In-swing door.
It's important because in the event of a collapse of the house, you can still get your door open and start digging your way out.
All it would take is 1 2x4 in front of the door. If it was outswing, you couldn't get out.
So that's the reason they're always in-swing. So
smart.
Cool. All right, Matt, so tip number 2 for you is water shutoffs. You know, I can't tell you how many houses I've been to that don't have a water shutoff. Isn't that frustrating?
And if you don't have that in the house, you're running out to the street to get the meter. And this house could be like 200 yards away, right?
If you're like me, you're never going to be home when that happens. And then it's like, hey, honey, can you go 400 feet and grab a wrench and turn my water meter? Like, it's never going to happen. So installing a water shutoff for the main inside your house, I feel like it's a great tip and it's something that everybody should consider doing.
And this is just a 1/4 turn ball valve, but what is this in front of it? I've never seen that before.
So we did take it a step further. This house is Control 4 automated home. So the way this guy works is that it actually integrates with sensors or pucks, so you can put them under your kitchen sink or your laundry room. And if it detects a leak, it's going to notify your phone for one. But if you don't respond, or even if you do, it gives you the ability to cut the water off. And so you hit that button right there.
And then it sends a signal.
And so then that's going to cut the ball valve off, which kills the whole house.
That's so great.
Yeah, and that's these don't. And the reason that I like this option is because this is an 1.5-inch pipe, which is a little.
It's big.
Well, that's
not a small custom
It's
home
abnormal. Here, but it doesn't restrict water flow. And that's my big thing.
Full flow ball valve.
Not putting any appliances in line that are going to restrict water flow, because that's a big problem when you're building a house like this.
Super smart. So accessible spot for your shutoff.
So Matt, tip number 3. Let's talk about fire safety.
Ooh, that's a good one from a firefighter.
Yeah, it's kind of the obvious choice for me, right? So everybody thinks about fireplaces, so this is a good spot to talk about this.
Yep.
So obviously, you know, we got
hearth,
non-combustible concrete and steel hearth, and then the whole masonry fireplace. We got fiber cement overlaid for our stone. And this is a gas fireplace, by the way, so not as big of a risk.
Yep.
But what you can't see in this living room and in this whole house is the complete enclosure and safe and sound, like from Rockwool. So
smart.
yeah, I'm a big believer in controlling fire to compartments.
Yep.
There's one way to save lives and property, it's controlling the fire. So I even like talk to my kids, especially, and my wife about if there's ever a fire, like shut the door, right? So, and the point of that is to isolate fire.
Smart.
If you leave your door open and you're just feeding it oxygen, before the fire department gets there, your house is going to be toast.
Yeah.
So not only do we have that conversation, but containing it to a compartment is really how you're going to save a life. So in between floors, like there's living space above us right here, you know, we have safe and sound over the top and the walls. There's a bedroom beside us, with the idea being that you could help isolate it to give the occupants longer to get out and give the fire department more time to respond. So,
and one comment I'd make on that is, you know, you and I use a lot of engineered floor joists, I-joists or engineered trusses, let's say. And a comment I've gotten for years from the firefighter community on my videos is those aren't as safe as solid sawn lumber, right? Because if a fire happened on a floor truss, it could fail quicker for a firefighter upstairs. So having that safe and sound in between those, packed in there, means that fire is going to have a harder time reaching those metal connectors, let's say the OSB webbing on an I-joist, all that kind of thing.
And it also is a great acoustical block too, which is a good help in a house like this to help try to isolate some sound to give people a little more
At my house, in this situation where I did the same thing above me, I have a hard time yelling at my kids to come to dinner upstairs. So it's a double-edged sword. You got to be careful. I don't hear them, but they also don't necessarily hear me when I tell them it's time for dinner. I actually text my family sometimes in my own house, hey, come down for dinner, kids.
That's how you know you have a well-built house.
That's right.
All right, let's move on to tip number 4. All right, Matt, so let's talk about man-made disasters. We talked about things happening from the outside and I guess unexpected disasters, but let's talk about something that happens on the inside of your house, right? So like Steve Basic says, water's the #1 killer of buildings.
That's for sure.
So I've seen that from, even in the fire department, like when a house catches on fire, it's typically not the fire that causes the most damage, it's all the water we come in and spray in your house and flood it out. So let's talk about today in a mechanical room. So if you're like me, you've had your fair share of air handlers leaking condensation through the attic, right?
And it can make a huge mess in a house.
Nothing like getting a phone call from a client on Thanksgiving and, hey, I got water coming through my ceiling.
So check out what you've done here. Walk me through this.
Yeah, so, you know, we've done a lot of recessed showers. So when I say recessed, really zero entry. So we recess our floor trusses, we build the base up, and then it's a curbless zero entry. So the same thought process here on a mechanical room that's not in a basement or on a slab is we recessed it, we put down Schluter's Curdy system, brought it up the wall about 4 inches.
As if it's going to be a hall shower.
You're basically prepping for a shower is all that we're doing. And then that's just, Schluter has a new drain out now that's flush. It's made just for a floor drain. So that's what that is specifically. And then the black mat you're seeing is just a stall mat from Tractor Supply. So
you could have tiled it if you wanted to, but why do that? Because all you're doing is just protecting the Curdy, which is your waterproof membrane, which is only going to see water in a catastrophe event.
Yeah, so if you're in here doing service work and drop a pair of pliers, you don't want to puncture a hole in that Curdy. But yeah, I mean, with an air handler in here and a water heater.
Yeah, you got your Rinnai right above it too. So if anything ever happened to the pipes coming in the Rinnai, the condensate. You've got, of course, a condensate pan and an alarm, but this is belt and suspenders.
It is. Being a second home for a client, I don't want it to be, something starts leaking and you're not here for 2 weeks. Yeah. You come home and it's a complete mess.
And that's happened before.
Oh, man, yeah. And even servicing the water heater, I mean, you're going to have a little bit of water dripping, and potentially, if you're not paying attention, you could have a little bit of fair amount of water.
Yeah, if you did your annual flush and you spilled the bucket, it still can cause a ton of damage.
We have that. Just a recessed area for a mechanical room. It's an easy tip. It's not very expensive, and it gives a lot of protection for the clients. So
I absolutely love this. This is my favorite of all the tips. And I would tell you, this is the thing that makes me really appreciate you being a smart builder, because not only is the house beautiful, we all have seen beautiful houses, but this shows me this house is incredibly well built. Oh, Will, check it out. You put those thermo tracks in on this garage door. This little track has an S in it, which pushes the garage door closed. So now the air conditioning in your garage is going to leak out because this is pushing the door against the weather stripping. But what does this have to do with disasters?
Yeah, so, you know, we're part of the Fortified program. That's something that we've kind of made the standard of how we're doing construction now. So, you know, we talk about Fortified as a whole, the program, there's 3 different levels. So there's Fortified roof, then there's silver, then there's a gold level.
Okay.
But the gold is going to be more like coastal, structural engineer, everything has to be strapped. You can do it inland, but the roof and the silver is what we're doing. So the roof, to start with, is the sealed roof deck is the big part. And there's things like better fasteners, like ring shank nails, and then a sealed roof deck, which we accomplished that by a zip system. That's the easy way to do it.
Meaning if your shingles blow off, the zip system tape on all the sheathing means that you're not going to have a ton of water running into the house.
There's actually some studies that they've done that shows, like, in the event of a roof failure like that in a high wind, it can keep like 95% of water out of your house compared to an unsealed roof deck. That's crazy.
Just dumps hundreds of gallons.
So if the wind doesn't hurt you, the water is going to flood your house out. So that's a big deal. We actually hung sheetrock in this house before we put our metal roof on. So with just that sealed roof deck in place.
That's awesome.
So that part works. But then when you take it to a step farther, the Fortified silver, you know, inland, we have a lower wind speed here, but we're looking at windows and doors, and specifically garage doors. So they have to have the wind rating. So you have to just get with your, you know, like basically your Fortified inspector, get the wind rating, talk to your garage door company. Most doors have the ability to meet the wind speed and the pressure rating. And then also the tracks and the way they're attached, it has to be torqued right.
The number of fasteners.
To hold that door in place. So, and that's, you know, it just makes for a, you know, I guess a better protected house overall. Because you think about it, Matt, if you lose a garage door in the event of a windstorm, and I don't know if you've seen any tornado damage or how, like, hurricane stuff, once this big opening fails, man, your house just gets pressurized from the inside out, and it's just like
pops it.
I mean, I've seen it where walls will be bowed out 8 inches and the windows pushed out because of a failure like this, and you get pressure in the house. So that's a big part of the program, is to have the wind-rated, pressure-rated doors.
That's cool, man.
That's what we did here.
Very smart.
All right, Matt, so one more bonus thing that I wanted to bring in. We didn't really get to it inside the house, but I want to tell you about access and talking through that as an old paramedic. So, you know, one thing that we had to do as a paramedic a lot was to go in and get people out of their house in a medical emergency, not just fires and collapses and all the glorious stuff, but, you know, there's difficulty breathing calls at 3 a.m. that we ran all the time. And I can't tell you the patients that we've had to get out of houses that were, you know, let's just say 200, 300, 400, 500 pounds, and you can't get in. You can't get a stretcher down their hallway or into their doorway or even into the house without going up, say, 8 steps. So in my mind as a builder, when I'm looking at all our plans, especially doing the design build, I'm always looking at how to better have access in the event of an emergency. Because, you know, they might be young and healthy now, but at some point that's going to change.
That's right.
And we try to make sure we have good access. And you can see on this house, we even have a nice ramp and a very small step coming into the house. So that's going to make things like that easier in the event that it happens.
Now, you're always going to have a 3.0 front door by code, but you're saying also, let's be thinking about not just 2.8 or 2.6 doors, but 3.0 doors into the master bedroom, into the master bath, all those main spaces.
But at least have a path of 3.0 doors to go from the front door or their garage all the way to the master bathroom, because, you know, if somebody gets on a walker or somebody's in a wheelchair, you want to make sure they can get to their bathroom. That's not just in their house. You know, they got to be able to go to the bathroom too. So
great bonus tip, my friend. Guys, gorgeous house, amazing builder. If you're not familiar with High Cotton Homes, they're building right here in Florence and within some of these surrounding communities. And this is just one example of the gorgeous work these guys do. But if you're not familiar, Will is shooting videos over on BuildShowNetwork.com. Almost everything we talked about today on these 5 tips, he's shot something on these things as well from this house under construction, during the construction phase. He's just wrapping this one up. So you should be looking for a link in the description to sign up for our newsletter, because every week my team is going to send you a newsletter that says, hey, here's what's new from Will on BuildShowNetwork.com, as well as our other 12 contributors. And by the way, he's also posting videos all the time from his High Cotton feed on Instagram and Will King Builds, which is his personal builder feed on Instagram. So go follow him on those. Guys, if you're not currently a subscriber, hit that subscribe button below. We've got new content here every Tuesday and every Friday. Follow us on TikTok or Instagram. Otherwise, I'll see you next time on the Build Show.